I don't know
New
where
metal.
you guys lost me, but that mid to late '90s, that new metal sound of Machine Head, of White Pony, the Deftones, Soulfly, and the Sepultura once they stopped doing the thrash shit. All of it's got that groove to it, but it also has just so much different stuff. There's hardcore punk in there. There's thrash in there. There are moments where Carlos's guitar has got like a Dredge, The Cure, U2 kind of edge modulation to it. Mm-hmm. So much you can hear going on in the songs, and that's why I liked it. That's why it doesn't sound like just your normal cookie cutter bullshit. Like it's got a soul and it's got intent. Yeah,
man. I've enjoyed being very just like single-minded in terms of being able to just focus on drumming and being able to enjoy the fact that, like you said, man, Carlos, he comes up with a lot of different sound and everything. And also we had, on the record itself, Tavo laid down a lot of tracks there as well that really were kind of, when I was listening to the playback, the stuff that Tavo added tastefully in the songs, I mean, that was like game changer to the song a lot of times.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, for me as the drummer, I've been able to really just enjoy kind of sitting back and letting these guys kind of work their magic and just, sort of layer and layer and layer until it feels complete without being overdubbed, like where it's just a wall of sound that doesn't really make sense, so.
Well, I know you and me have had probably 30,000 conversations on this topic, but I mean, you're a blistering ass fucking drummer, and you know where the pocket's at, and you've just got good ears. And we've talked about, if your rhythm section isn't together and your rhythm section doesn't have that relationship, your band's fucked. Your music's gonna suck. And it sounds like you and Tavo have got an excellent relationship as far as being the rhythm section of this shit. When the songs shift, 9 times out of 10, it's you guys making that shift and driving that bus.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the challenge of having sections that are quite distinct in the songs, tempo wise and
es como fake no humor, que no sabes qué es lo que es.
Yeah. No hay que clasificar, hay que fluir.
Es una influencia de todo eso, de Soulfly, de Sepultura, Pantera, de una influencia de todo que se mezcla ahí. Eso es lo bueno también de la versatilidad que puedes tener con una banda.
Sí. It was just enjoyable that we were able to play primarily as a 3-piece, and at least whenever we were writing and rehearsing. And
right.
That allowed us to create those sort of fluid changes, but somewhat naturally, just on the fly, like, okay, let's, we'll pull the tempo back here a little bit, but, we're not sitting there having to sort of like discuss it mathematically. It's just kind of like one of those things that you sort of just look at each other and as you're playing and you kind of just feel the pullback, or you feel the speed up, where you turn on a dime and everybody's looking at each other like, yeah, we know we're about to just like turn it up, we're going to turn the speed up. So it's just been, for me personally as a drummer, it's been just a joy to, play with these guys literally just live. Just the rehearsals to me are so enjoyable in and of itself and rewarding, because you kind of come up with a little different tweak every time. You throw a little different fill in, or maybe just extend a section of a song longer. In terms of a part where it's instrumental. When we jam it, we kind of just go with the flow. I mean, in terms of that. So that's the aspect that I'm really looking forward to is you know, when this virus is, you know, finally put away or whatever we got to do, yeah, I look forward to the live shows, man. I mean, I love the recording and the studio and all that. I love that, man. But I'm really looking forward to taking these songs that we have and that we love the structure, and then just going live and just totally rewriting.
Just tearing heads
yeah,
off.
just play it like a whole different way than we even thought it could be on the recording, you know. And
yeah.
And just experiment, you know, and enjoy it, because the way that the songs were concepted or conceptualized is they are in a sense kind of formless. Like we could play these songs and, you know, kind of tweak them as we go, and we just feel comfortable with that because we do it kind of like at every practice. But
that's another thing that really got me, man. Like I'm personally really fucking tired of verse chorus bridge chorus goodnight. Like and a lot of the stuff on the EP is very linear, and when it feels like it gets to a chorus, it's not a fucking chorus. It's just the next part of the goddamn song. Right. It's just catchy like a chorus, you know?
Yeah.
And you move on and you keep building on that. That's a hard thing to do and make it cohesive and make it work. And you guys did it, and I give you kudos for that, because I mean, like, even me personally as a writer, that shit is so damn hard. You know?
Yeah. Because
and you did it. So good job. Now that we're talking about the record, you talked about earlier about how rehearsals were kind of rushed, and you know, like the recording was a bit sporadic. Where all did you record? Like I've seen video of you guys like in a kitchen. I've seen you at the studio. I've seen you in like fucking like all these different places where you send me videos or whatever.
Yeah.
And it seems like everything y'all are doing is just kind of like opportunistic. Like you're just like, okay, well we can record here now, so let's do it. So like, how did that work, and how many different locations and all of that?
I'll let you guys answer that if you want to kind of. I mean, they might know what he was asking, but.
Bueno, antes de eso decía que cómo fluye súper bien la banda de por sí, y bueno, el hecho de que los tres estén bastante de acuerdo cuando el Carlitos le coloca una guitarra, tú le agregas unos toques pero precisos, y de por sí la canción toma vida, ¿ya? Entonces eso fue como algo que mencionaron antes. Ahora lo que está preguntando es cómo es que han estado grabando. ¿Dónde? Porque él ha visto cocinas, él ha visto desiertos, él ha visto distintas partes. Entonces, ¿cómo lo están haciendo desde ese punto de vista?
Desde todos lados, ¿cachai? Por ejemplo, desde tomarla desde una pieza, grabarla con el teléfono, así ya, grabar ahí. Después ya plasmarlo, mostrarlo, plasmarlo, después ya modificarlo y ahí.
Y involucrarlo.
Sí, bueno, y que todo ya es como un lienzo en blanco que cada uno le va poniendo una parte de lo que sabe hacer, sí, en este caso.
Yo creo que
está la libertad y la tolerancia para hacerlo también, pues eso es lo bueno.
Yo creo que parte por varias cosas. A ver, uno es primero encontrar los buenos elementos para hacer música, y el Robert llegó acá a Chile. Me acuerdo que hablamos, tú estás en Estados Unidos, y te dije, ya hagamos música, cuando vengáis acá a Chile, weón, hagamos música. Y partió así. Y un día lo tomamos en el supermercado con la Carlita.
Sí.
Y empezamos a hablar y lo vamos a juntar, y ahí partió todo. Ahora, yo con Tavo tengo absoluta y plena confianza porque es un musicazo. El Tavo es guitarrista, y me parecía interesante que no fuera un bajista, sino que fuera un guitarrista. Y de hecho, cuando tocamos, el Tavo toca con un amplificador de un cabezal de guitarra, toca el bajo, entonces le da otro matiz. Y aparte que hacer música, tenés que hacerlo con los amigos. Para hacer música y que valga la pena y que dé resultado, tenés que hacerla con los amigos. Si no, no formé una banda. Punto.
Claro, hay que tener el fiato.
Well, basically, when it comes to finding ideas, something as simple as picking up a cell phone, seeing something on the floor or in the sky or something that just catches your attention, record some of that, and that
In the street.
in the street anywhere, yeah,
Sí.
and make that form part of a video or an idea or something that just hit you. So basically, being someplace or recording in a really, really nice studio is good for the sound, but the concept of the idea can basically come from anywhere. It's a blank canvas. You can do anything you want with it.
Yo por mi parte es cierto que es el momento justo y preciso para hacer música. Y bueno, todos los momentos son justos y precisos para hacer música. Y ese es el problema, porque estamos haciendo música siempre. Y de alguna manera Ranahmassa, lo que grabamos acá, lo que grabamos en otro lado, mejor mostrar cómo se hace de manera interna y exponer algo de manera externa, que no es a la realidad, sería como básicamente mentir. Y el Robert mostró la otra vez cómo eran los atriles donde grabábamos. Entonces creo que es algo que fluye naturalmente, no creo que sea algo forzado.
Ese es el concepto a lo mejor de eso, de Ranahmassa Family, ¿cachai? Que ellos nos conozcan por lo que el trabajo y también en lo interno que cómo grabamos. Y eso es como también la idea
Claro.
de la familia Ranahmassa.
Sí, por supuesto.
Artisan.
Sí.
No, crap.
That was a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot. No, I mean, starting from one place. How it started, when Robert and Carlos actually spoke at one point. They're like, oh, we gotta jam sometime. Next time you come to Chile, come to my place, we'll just jam. And so eventually, this kitchen, this apartment, where you guys are doing the interview right now, is basically where it all started. Building up, atriles, I don't know how to translate that, but setting up microphones, taping them together, putting them close to the amps, and with this computer, a couple of pieces of cable, and boom, that's it. And the Ranahmassa family per se is something that comes along with the time, because first it was Carlos and Robert, and then since Tavo came into the picture, he's been able to add like sweet little different pieces of music with guitar, and it's been just evolving ever since then. So it's, I guess, in a place you could say right place, right time. Maybe not the right time as of this moment if you want to, see something a little thing more live, but it helps you to develop the music. But it all started, right here.
Yeah, it's a product of evolution, because when me and Carlos first started jamming, we weren't dead set on putting a band together. I mean, obviously that would have been great. That was, of course, a thought that was in the back of our mind. But what we were mostly concerned with is creating, music. Like, okay, there's us two, so let's do what we can do. And then as we went to the studio with Ramses and recorded and did all that, things just sort of accelerated from there. It's like, okay, now we have some decent sounding recordings. That means we can layer on top of it. That means that somebody else can come over to the house and record a track on top of it, So once we had a foundation, you can build off of that. So and that's all we did, and that's all we did. So
that's rad, man. As the producer and engineer, was it challenging to kind of put the final product together on the EP, having it kind of disjointed like that, like when you would go in and track something and then go in a little bit later and layer and layer?
I wouldn't say it was. I would not say that from a technical standpoint or a technique or however you want to call it. I wouldn't say from that standpoint that it was much more difficult than, say, for example, if we had went into, for example, Ramses and recorded 6 tracks, you know, more or less back to back, all on the same drum set, all on the same room, etc., etc. I think that I probably would have ended up having to do just as much work then to make the song sound different.
Right.
So, I mean, and that, you know, in retrospect, I can see that because I hadn't really thought about it that way until you asked the question. Really, probably what happened is just each song came out as a product of its environment. So, for example, just one really clear example I can think of is the song Chaos Theater. You know, that song has very different tones depending on where we played it at. Like, for example,
La Academia.
if we first conceived that song in a practice space in a bigger town that was just available, we just went one day just to say, hey, let's go practice there, you know, and that's what we had to work with. And that was kind of where that song's original riff and drum beat started to come together. I mean, I've got a practice video of that when we were writing it initially, and if you compare the performance that we did there compared to what's on the record, it's like it's the same song, but it's the same song, but like the Bizarro version, you know. Like, I attacked the drums different. I had a double pedal when we first wrote that song, and when we eventually later on recorded it at another practice space, I did not have a double pedal. I didn't have access to a double pedal. So if you notice that in the song, you'll notice that there's really no double pedal parts. There's a lot of toms, there's a lot of certain things. But for example, that is not how I would have played the song if I had had a double pedal, or if we had been in a different space, if we had been in another space, because the crazy thing...
Honestly, I think it worked out for the best. It gives it a very rock and roll feel.
Right, and the point is that song, sonically to me, this is like me coming more from a producer type mindset. Sonically to me, that song is more of a, not drum and bass, but it's more of a, like you kind of talk about that early 2000s type of sound, right? Versus, if we had done it in like a really nice clean studio, it may have come out sounding a little more like black metal, or, I mean, there's really no telling like kind of what the direction would have went on it. And I can say that because I know that, we were in a space. I had a certain drum set available to me, certain cymbals. I got one pedal. Okay, how am I going to play this song with one pedal? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go, because this might be it. So, and actually at that time, just another limitation we had was for that particular song, we had basically I had a snare mic, I had a kick mic that was just outside the kick, because there was no hole in the kick, just at that particular practice space that we were using. And then I had just one overhead. So I had a mono overhead that was just sort of pointed right down at the snare. And then I had a snare mic and then a kick mic. And so for example, when you're hearing the tom fills and all that stuff on that track, that's all like mono freaking Motown style recording. I mean, you're not...
You didn't use any samples, you didn't blend any shit, you just went with
I'll tell you exactly what I did on that track. What I did is I used the overhead as just, there's like your drum sound, right? Your overall kit. And then I used the snare mic in the mix, and I threw kind of like a nice high-pitched sample on top of it that I felt almost gave the snare drum, not a drum machine, but kind of like a piccolo or again, like I said earlier, I don't know why I said that, but like a drum and bass type snare drum. Yeah. that high.
Yeah, it's like a tighter high kind of sound.
Yeah, and you know that helped out with the clarity, but for me it was the song sounded pretty good without the sample. But when I was toying with it, I just thought that sample made the snare sound so much more distinct in the mix, in the overall mix, and I figured that that would kind of separate that snare crack from that overall kind of like vintage mono drum sound that that is coming across in that song, because that's just what we had to work with. And I think actually also what I did is the snare sample, which is sort of like, you know, the main snare sound, that's in the center like you would do a regular snare drum. But because I only had really 2 mics in play, what I ended up doing is taking the snare drum microphone and panning it kind of like hard left, and then panning the overhead hard right. So your snare drum is kind of wide, but also that's also picking up a lot of hi-hat. So it kind of moved the hi-hat over to the left, and the mono overhead kind of got moved over to the right. So you do feel you can feel a sense of movement, you know, in the cymbals and in certain things. And I mean, man, there's so many things, there's so many little things that we did in the mix and stuff to just bring the sound across. But
I'm sure we could talk for 3 goddamn hours.
Oh god, that's a whole other. Oh yeah, that's a whole
speaking of
podcast, man. That's the
gear
producer
and
podcast.
how you switch back and forth. Let's do a gear rundown real quick.
Okay.
Let's start with Tavo. Tavo, what'd you use to record the album? And what do you use to play live? Is it the same rig? Did you use different basses? What's your gear rundown look like?
¿Qué equipamiento usas tú? ¿Qué usaste para cuando grabaste versus qué usaste cuando hiciste tu video?
Bueno, usé primero un bajo personal que compré, antiguo. Bueno, primero probando sonidos como de guitarra, o sea, con amplificadores de guitarra, cabezales de guitarra, pero igual darle un toque distinto. Y lo otro, en vivo, no recuerdo qué cabezal, pero fue con un equipo ya de, así como, de bajo, netamente de bajo, no cabezal de guitarra. Pero los dos tienen, la idea sería como mezclar esos dos sonidos en uno solo.
Esa es la idea.
Esa es la idea, para que suene un poco más distinto y completo también, acabar que guitarra y bajo de cierta forma.
Claro, en vivo la sinergia tiene que fluir de manera directa y precisa, tiene que ser un golpe el sonido, en vivo. Y en estudio igual fue como...
¿No? ¿Y el bajo es marca? ¿Alguna marca?
Sí, marca un Yamaha RX no sé cuánto. No recuerdo el modelo.
Yamaha bass.
Sí.
Yamaha bass guitar.
Yamaha, sí. Es cómodo, súper cómodo, sí.
A comfortable Yamaha bass.
Yeah.
Auspicio. Sponsor Yamaha.
No, basically, when they actually rehearse, they use equipment meant for a guitar, because Tavo is a guitarist. And as for the bass, yeah, it's the Yamaha with the equipment for a guitar. And the difference there, obviously, when they go live or when they record into a studio, yeah, there they use the appropriate equipment for bass. But no, because since
showing that
Tavo's
rig right
always
there.
Yeah, that one right behind
Yeah.
you, Tavo, junto atrás tuyo. That's the one that they use. Así para que te lo muestre.
Pero
Yeah, check it out. We can show it.
Right there.
I'll get an angle of it later, but
The hard key, the iron heart, and that's part of the equipment that
Right on.
that they use.
yeah, there's definitely a skull
Yeah,
with like
the skull and gun.
dual Berettas.
That shit goes so hard.
So I mean, it probably sounds pretty good.
Is that a physical copy? Y'all got physicals?
Oh yeah, man. He's sneaking in some Larva's Atrapa promo, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Very
man.
He's getting some free airtime, man. Yeah, dude.
The-
Yeah, this is these guys' other band, man. Larva's Atrapa. Sick.
Right on.
You've heard that stuff, man. You heard a single
you
a while
sent
back.
me you sent me 1 or 2 tracks, I think.
It's
But,
the one that I did
what-
it's the one that I did that lyric video for.
Por eso-
Or,
Yeah.
Not a
okay.
lyric, but a logo video.
Por eso con el Tavo nos llevamos bien tocando en la música. Porque igual hay harto training
Sí.
desde que...
Desde gustos musicales hasta tocar juntos,
Sí.
que son,
Desde chico,
eso, claro,
niño chico.
Yeah, these
tocopilla.
guys grew up together in a sort of way. They've known each other
The
since they
Copillas
were
place.
kids. And so seeing each other one evolve musically, and now they just kind of fuse themselves together and make this new music. So yeah, Larva is the band that they were working on previously, and now they're able to just burst into this Ranahmassa style music that it's no,
Right.
not
So do you
definable,
guys still
but-
do y'all still do the larva stuff, or is it all Ranahmassa now?
Es como la rana que sale de la larva de...
Yeah.
Claro.
Mira,
It's
de hecho,
Dentro de la larva
mira,
sale
There's
la
a rana,
larva.
there's a frog,
De
there's
hecho-
a frog.
There can be no
Mira,
frog
mira.
without the worm.
Right.
Wait,
there you
wait,
go.
God
wait.
damn it.
de hecho, los dos conceptos tienen relación. Porque los dos hay una metamorfosis de una larva y de una rana.
Eso fue lo que dijo.
Yeah.
No puede haber rana sin el gusano.
Yeah,
Ah,
Eso
claro.
es.
The larva evolved into a frog?
Yeah.
el mezcal.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
All right,
man.
Carlos, what about you, man? What'd you use to record with?
¿Qué,
Okay.
¿Qué usáis? ¿Cuál es tu equipo?
Yo generalmente, bueno, me gusta usar harto equipo. Me gusta usar equipos como, no sé, primero probamos con un Samick de 10. Un Samick, what the fuck, un Samick. Lo probamos y aplicaba, pero bien, sonaba, no podíamos creer, con el Robert no podíamos creer que sonara tan bien el equipo. Y después en el Ramsés grabamos con un Mesa Boogie. Un buen equipo, bastante potente, pero mi sonido es netamente Blackstar, un sonido un poco más inglés. Me gusta el sonido del Blackstar porque me siento cómodo en él. Siento que estoy pisando un suelo firme, un cimiento firme. No estoy como en el aire o como con la duda de que el sonido me va a quedar bien o mal, sino que básicamente eso. Y básicamente mis sonidos son varias guitarras afinadas en diferentes tonos, afinadas de manera particular. Y va en eso, entre mezclar lo clásico y mezclar lo moderno y escuchar distintos estilos de música. Más básicamente esa wea. Listo.
Okay,
Complete.
the first part. They started off with this, what was it that called, Robert?
Yeah, it was I got you. It's this little amp. It's called a Samick.
Salmon.
And imagine like a crate 110 practice combo. Like just a little
At
one.
least it's not a line 6.
No, it's not. It's not on line 6. But however, his main guitar effects is a line 6 HX effects,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is like
The new,
it's like an 8 knob.
the
Yeah,
newer
it's
digital shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a 8
That's
button switcher.
that's like the line 6 version of the Helix, right?
I would say so.
I
yeah.
love Linea 6.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, and actually, what?
No, no.
Wow.
Give it a go.
Oh, he froze again. Okay, let's see.
Estoy en el baño.
Abbreviation.
Oh no, is it frozen?
Hey, it is, but okay,
All right, they got y'all back.
you're back now. You're good.
No, siéntate, Julio.
All right, check this out. Yeah,
All right.
and then, all right.
So
So
I heard.
Well, what-
I heard. I love.
I got you.
That's what I got.
Yeah, I got you.
I love line 6. That's what
Oh yeah.
That line 6. Yeah, that
Linea
line 6, man.
Auspicio sponsor.
Let me say this. Let me say this. Yeah. Let me say this. Through the Black Star, which is like a 212 combo, the line 6 sounds excellent, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like because first of all, just you can tell that the actual tones in it are really pretty well done. But the fact that they're going through like a tube amp, but also the fact that a lot of the effects that he's using are just very extreme effects, like huge,
super saturated on the
just
record.
huge saturated things. So, so I think that lends itself to sounding great because, we're throwing that through a really, really cool, nice, strong sounding tube amp, and it's like you're getting, you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. You're getting a great digital patch, but that you're pushing it through that circuitry, and through that speaker. So so that's been great actually. I mean, and I've fiddled around with it a little bit myself, just doodling around, and yeah, man, it's a great unit.
Jerry?
Well, I feel like I should specify when I shit on line 6, it's mainly the Spider practice combo.
Those are like.
But no, they were like pioneers of the digital stuff, and their newer modulation pedals are really like competing with a lot of the higher end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fucking, they're all on that same level. It's like a preference thing really, as opposed to a quality thing at this point, with like line 6 and Helix and the Axe effects and shit.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it's funny we keep going back to Chaos Theater, but that song actually. The main two, I guess I'd call them the main two guitar tracks, your left and right guitar tracks on that. Those are actually direct in from the line 6 into my interface.
Oh,
yeah. And then what was cool about that song, the way we executed on the recording was those tracks sounded fine as they were. They were great. But what allowed us to add a little bit of air and a little bit of hair to it was that we had the live take. We had the live guitar from when we tracked it, like live in the room with the drums and everything. And that was an okay tone. We just had a different type of amp in the practice space there with us, but that gave the guitars kind of like a real grit, like a live grit. And then Carlos came and just did all of these jazz chord clean arpeggios. So in other words, anytime you're hearing essentially like some really, really dissonant chords on that guitar, he's also layering in there with like these clean jazz chords that again kind of took the direct in that we had from the line 6. And it rounded it out so musically because those clean tones were recorded through an amp mic. So everything went together to kind of just give so many textures that it all fits together into like one sort of, in my head, it all fits together into like one sort of like a strum sound, It's one just beautiful strum, but it's so many little tiny details of the guitar mixed together that I think it just gives your ear a lot of cool stuff to process. But that might be the most that might be the most dissonant song I've ever recorded, to be perfectly honest with you. Chaos Theater. I mean,
seriously, the most dissonant.
From pure amount of dissonant notes played at one time, I would say so. Like my image of a guy playing that song on piano is like just taking his forearms and just kind of doing this on the piano. Bah! Like the whole keyboard is just being like smashed. If we had a keyboard, we probably would have done that too. We would have just like smashed it down on there. But no, man, it's a really cool song.
Speaking of your use of dissonance, it happens a lot on the EP. There's dissonant shit. There's some of it almost sounds like it was not a great take, and you were just like, well, we're not going to get the opportunity to do it again, so how do we...
Right.
Is that accurate, or did you really decide to embrace the dissonance in the writing process?
I'll let the other guys answer that too, because they were more on the melodic side, but I'll answer from more like, I was, holding down the drums, but also from like a producing standpoint, engineering. I thought that everything that we came across was bare minimum. I wouldn't even say it felt like a happy accident. I think most of the sections that you hear in there that might stick out to you as like somebody who is just listening and absorbing the songs. I think a lot of it came across very deliberately. Like we played a take, that was it, and we kind of said, yeah, like okay, cool. This layer would sound good on top of that, and that was from my perspective. And again, that's even coming from sort of the engineering producing side. I kind of had to keep my ears out for things that didn't work or whatever. And to be perfectly honest with you, man, I mean, we recorded a lot of stuff that we nixed. Honestly, I mean, we did takes, we did overdubs, and we'd say, it just doesn't, something doesn't work, and we'd go back in there and hit it again, and something would just click in our mind and just say, yeah, that's it. I mean, why wouldn't that be it? That was from my perspective. But I want these guys, because they were more doing the melodic stuff, so
yeah.
That's a complicated one to answer. Cuando hicieron las grabaciones, por ejemplo, con el Robert, los distintos puntos había de distintas capas. Cuando él como productor, como cuando empezó a editarlas, sumar, que al fin y al cabo se escuchaba un sonido, una nota, un tema nítido. La combinación de todas esas distintas capas, de todo, ese Chaos Theater. Entonces, en esa misma, bueno, según lo que decía Robert, no fue como un accidente feliz, sino que habían cosas que sí había que mejorar, habían otras cosas que sonaban fluidas sin necesitar de mejorar. Entonces, ustedes como manejaban más la melodía, ¿cómo hicieron funcionar eso a su favor?
La verdad es que cuando yo hice esos acordes nunca pensé que le iba a meter jazz ni que le iba a meter nada de eso. De hecho, esos acordes lo hice hace mucho tiempo, pero cuando lo encajamos y después llegamos acá y lo hicimos, de repente decía, bien, suena en este tono, pero wait, también suena en este otro tono.
No. Armonía.
Sí, wait.
Oh,
wait.
Let's try it again.
De nuevo me hace la pregunta porque yo voy al baño.
Oh yeah, that's okay. Go ahead.
Orinar.
¡Quiero orinar!
Vete. Vuelta los días así.
Here it comes.
¿Todavía te lo decís, Michelle?